Ireland versus Italy in Lansdowne Road, or the Aviva Stadium. This is going to be the Sunday game, February 27th. It's going to be kicking off at 3 o'clock, and it's going to be refereed by Nika Kelly, the Georgian. He's been on the sideline for the first couple of weeks, but Georgian ref getting his first Six Nations game. Delighted for him. Yeah,
and as jacked and intimidating a referee as you'll ever see.
Yes, he is.
You wouldn't be chatting back to him.
No, he's a fit lad. And the ARs on the touchline are Matthew Carley and Christophe Ridley, both English there, and then we have a Frenchman in Eric Gauzin in the TMO as well. So quite an eclectic mix, but good luck to our Russian friend, who is a very, very good ref, and I'm glad
to see him in there. Jeez, yeah, it's a reprieve from the Mike Adamson we were talking about in the one before.
Indeed.
As far as the colour of this game is concerned, the history began back in just 1988 as Italy kind of burst onto the scene. Ireland defeated them then 31-15, but then the Italians had quite a good record against Ireland in the 90s, off the back of which I think they went into the Six Nations.
It was pretty much that. Yeah, no, they've had 4 wins overall. I think the total record overall is that they've played, they've met 33 times. Ireland have won 29, Italy have won 4, but 3 of those victories came between 1995 and 1997, including Italy's only win in Dublin, which came in 1997 by a scoreline of 37-29. So a very good win for Italy back then. But yeah, no, the more recent one, which is the recent record we're looking at as more telling, was a 48-10 win for Ireland in Rome last year, and obviously the shoe's on the other foot because we're in Dublin this time. So yeah, a tough test for the Italians is in store, one would reckon, looking at that history.
Yeah, well, indeed, that's what your money's on, and we are going to look at both teams and how they're going to approach this game. We're going to start with the hosts, that is Ireland, Dublin on Sunday. Ireland, of course, they, like, from their point of view, reeling a little from that French defeat, but once the dust has settled now on that, they'll look at their position in the table.
The fact that they got a bonus point out of it when they were 22-7 down, they'd have taken that, to be honest.
Well, indeed, they have a great opportunity now. Like, if they'll be looking at it and going like, right, we're not going to be a 5-win team. Very tough to be a 5-win team in this competition. But if it's to be won by a 4-win team, we're in a great position if we can be that team to be the one that wins it. We've got bonus point against Wales, that's one against the field, losing bonus point against the French. Now they have a chance here to go in. It is crucial for them that they get a bonus point here in this game, get 5 points up on the board, and then take a bonus point from each of the first 3 games, as well as their 2 wins. Going into the final 2-week block, they'll be in a great position. If it's to be a 4-win team that wins the comp, obviously they can't control if France are going to win the Slam or not, but they'll be in a great position to win it if they're a 4-win team. So that is definitely going to be a point of focus for the Irish going into this one.
Decent chance to shake off that Parisian disappointment as well, with the home crowd back, and a chance to run in some tries.
If from an emotional point of view, like, obviously if France go and win away in Scotland and Wales, they'll be huge favourites to beat England and win the Slam. But like, Ireland could know that if they get a win against Scotland, if they win a bonus point here and win in Twickenham next week, they'll know it'll just take a win against Scotland to put themselves out of reach of even a losing bonus point for France ahead of that game against England, which is the kind of thing that puts doubts in the mind during that game. They know that a losing bonus point isn't going to save them. So the second they're 3-0 down, Ireland are champions as it stands.
Yes,
and that's the kind of thing that can play on the minds. So Ireland will be thinking about this kind of stuff, because it all comes into it at the end, and this is to not get a bonus point here would be a major slip up.
It'll be a huge slip up. But then similarly, they're going to try and get minutes into some fringe players as well, because it is the Italy game and it is a chance to do that.
We don't know that.
No, we don't have the teams as it stands. We do know that James Lowe he was recovering from injury, but he's rejoined the squad, as has the uncapped Jimmy O'Brien as well, which fair to reward his good form, because he's a very, very good player. We also know that Tom O'Toole was ruled out as well. He was kind of in the line to get a start as well, or to get at least some bench minutes as well, like in this Italy game, but he is out as well. So we don't quite know what they'll go for, but I'd expect a chop and change kind of team.
Early indications are that Sexton's going to be starting. He was in the doing the presser in the week and bigging it up that he's good to go. It's hard to know whether they'll go that way and drop Carberry,
or maybe have him on the bench and have Carberry starting as a kind of prototypical, what if we could do this in the World Cup, which is a nice thought.
It is, it's just that Sexton has never ever delivered in the 22 jersey in his life. He's never done it. He wears 10 a lot better than he wears 22.
It's true, and some players are like that, but as it stands for the Italy game, I think there's a mixture, a myriad different options that this Irish squad could pick and be effective against Italy. So it won't matter quite so much with the personnel, so much as what we're seeing from their shape, what we're seeing from just their offense in general. It took its first little setback in that great bit of form that it's been showing, and the winning streak that was bookended by defeats to France at either end. But they've been dominant in other matchups, and they'll be looking to kind of grab that by the reins again. They'll go out hunting tries. There'll be no illusions of it. I don't expect a polite 3-pointer to be taken in the first 10 minutes, which sometimes happens in the Italy game. I think you're winning penalties, you're kicking to the corner.
Ireland do that anyway. Like Ireland are probably one of the least conservative teams when it comes to taking threes. They often go to the corner.
They do.
And while they didn't against the French last week, that'll very much be the lesson they took, and I expect them to be going for the corner from the start. But I think the bigger question, the more interesting question, you alluded to it there, is like their momentum, their big 8-game win streak came to a close, and now they're in this situation where how much has that affected them? Like when we were in the Aviva Stadium in November, like they were just attacking from everywhere. Like they were going off lineouts, they were running their patterns, their forwards were really quick to fold into positions, and they were ferocious in the contact, so they weren't being stopped in that way. The ball was quick, it was well directed by the 10, who was Sexton at that time, but whoever it will be, with directing traffic, tempo from 9, direction from 10, and speed and power from the forwards who fold into their shape really quickly. It becomes quite an irresistible thing to deal with.
Indeed. Well, I saw it, the most impressive one in the autumn was probably that in terms of the context of this game was the Argentina game, which came the week after the All Blacks game, which was another very physical, very bruising, very emotionally charged performance. And the question is, like, the week after in a match that's kind of a friendly against an Argentina team, do you look a little stuttery? But no, they did chop and change. Carberry got the start in that game.
And it was slightly different in that it was, like I remember against Japan, it was all backs on the board, and then Argentina all forwards.
Indeed.
But it is probably that kind of game they want to play. They still want to move the ball, they still want to run it, but they want to make it about their forwards. They want to limit their errors and impose themselves physically on the Italians, who, while a solid defensive pack, I think we saw against England, can be just a little bit jaded if they can't get a play off against you on the defensive end. Like if they're just not winning contacts, not able to slow your ball, then they start to fall off tackles and lose matchups.
Or just drop balls clean eventually as the game wears on, and you're expecting that there's more wilt in the Italians sooner. Just if you face them later in the Six Nations, it just tends to play out that way, because they've already suffered 2 defeats, and it's tough to keep going and get up and go again. So it won't take much by way of accuracy and intent and ferocity from Ireland.
It's those opening exchanges and how that game goes in that period. I mean, they'll back themselves to get the win anyway, but the degree to which the game is tough will defend a lot in the opening few minutes. If Ireland are a little unsure of themselves, if, like, say for example, Conor Murray's in at 9 and is throwing bad passes, and then they're dropping balls, and then they're just kicking the ball, and then all of a sudden everything that this Ireland team has been about, attacking from everywhere, getting everyone into their shape, keeping forward pods nice and wide, and then picking good options off each other, fades away a little bit into a different kind of contest and a different kind of Ireland. Then Italy can work their way into the game, and it's about getting on top of the Italian defence when they have the ball, not making errors, and playing the same sharp offensive game that they have played. Because as good as the French defence was, it was a very unique way of stopping Ireland, where you're going to get out of the line on the inside, smash them, make absolute nonsense of their ball, and just be humongous, like Paul Willems dragging down 6 Irish forwards and then getting a jackal off a line out. Like, those kind of plays aren't in Italy, I don't think. So Ireland just know, if they stick to their patterns, if they play with focus and intent, and they limit their errors, this offense will find tries for them. It's been a rhythmic, beautiful thing over the course of the last year, and it's
about re-establishing that rhythm and getting some shapes right, getting some confidence in their veins, getting some momentum back in their campaign as they get ready for their seminal game, which is the Twickenham game coming up. That'll be decisive. So this is just an opportunity to bed in, re-establish some rhythm on the offense, shake off the Parisian kind of defeat and just the manner of it, and be ready and primed and as sharp as they are, or as sharp as they can be on the offense, to try and carry that momentum and ride a few tries and a nice scoreline into Twickenham, which is exactly what they'll need.
But it takes being to the pitch of the game in a way that, because they have to be mindful again, and we'll talk about Italy, but like Italy are going to be, I think, uniquely, we've given the news last week and we'll touch on this in a moment, they're going to be uniquely emotionally charged in this game, fighting in some sense for their place and justification in the competition. Like Ireland, like that stuff is not seminal as far as the quality of a rugby team one v the other.
No.
But it can be telling if Ireland aren't at the game. If they're rocking up kind of as you're saying, oh, you know, we'll get our win and go on to Twickenham, like they do have to be mindful that there's a fight here in front of them. And that starts on both sides of the ball.
I think it starts on defence more than offence, because actually England, although not quite impressive on the offensive end in terms of they only racked up 33, the nil that they doled out to Italy was very impressive, and that will be a little notice board target to try and just like, let's not let our try line be crossed by this Italian shower. Let's dial in the defence, and that normally is enough to bring you up to the pitch of a match like this, where it is a mismatch. And you're right in saying the only danger is getting in your own way and trying to avoid that by being up to the pitch of the battle on the defence.
They start a little sluggishly, Italy. Usually they start with a couple of hit-ups up front or in the centre, and if Ireland can just get on top of those contacts, if you can have the likes of Ryan and Daragh just smashing guys back on the inside, then all of a sudden Garbisi will either sit deep and kick, or try something very ill-advised. He's their key man, Garbisi, so getting after him, I don't think, like you talk about Finn Russell, he's a guy who you shouldn't pressure because he'll open you up. I think Garbisi is a guy who you should pressure.
Yeah, and Varney is definitely a guy you should
the two of them look quite good against kind of soak defences and drift defences, but when the pressure gets up, they tend to make mistakes.
And when the breakdown's a mess, which it was in week 1 in Paris, and you saw some really loose clearing of the ruck from Varney in particular, was just, he was struggling very much with that power, and you need to present a similar picture, just we're much stronger than you, we're going to bully you when you have the ball, so kick it to us so that we can attack. That's Ireland's template for it.
One would think. And then from Italy, from their point of view, obviously the same old equation remains.
The same old story. They everywhere they go they get hammered.
Well, they do. They try their damnedest. I tell you, if they are to deliver a big game, it might be this week. I know you kind of say that just because it's Ireland, and so you're the week of the match, you're a little down on that. Like we never really give Italy too much thought when they're playing one of the other big five. They usually do lose the game comfortably, and it'll likely be the same way this week. But they will for sure be stung, and I know as much as the South Africa Six Nations story has been big in rugby circles here, it's been colossal in Italy.
Of course,
this is the pressure that now is on this team. Like, people are questioning you, people are questioning your existence in the tournament. How are you going to respond to that?
That's definitely.
This is going to be as emotionally charged. I think this is going to be as emotionally charged an Italian performance as we've seen in the last couple of years. I think
that's probably a more optimistic appraisal than I'd give it.
Just listening to some of the talk.
I appreciate that, but it's just the history of watching. Like as it goes on, I think their best performances come against Scotland and in the opening of the tournament. I think week 3 is never Italy's friend. It's just because you get worn down when you suffer a few defeats, and they got nilled last time.
It's just the fact that they've been so,
and they did exactly what I asked them to, which was not kick threes and go gung ho for attacks against a tier 1 side last time out, and they just got zero. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to win the game, and I think a lot will depend on the quality of what they're doing as well as anything else. And that was the issue last week, was just that the quality wasn't there. Everything was too slow, and they were up against one of those sneakily very good defences in England, who just shut everything down, and like Jamie George and the like, every time they tried something they were just getting smashed. It's true.
And but against Ireland in Dublin, first of all, nobody gives them a prayer, but I think first of all, emotionally charged is what they'll bring. So it doesn't necessarily mean they'll be perfect or even be competitive, but I think they will be emotionally charged.
I would hope so. I definitely hope so.
I think it's a huge job. This Ireland team has been likes of Japan and Argentina has just cruised through them. Wales cruised through them. They're playing at a level that's like your All Black France, England, those kind of huge games. That's the level that they have been playing at, and Italy obviously nowhere near that level in terms of where they've been. But it does start with just being, first of all, ferocious, and we know they have quality. Some of the back rowers, the likes of Lucchesi, if they can be hungry in the initial part of the game and smashing guys, getting out of the line and making their tackles on the initial ball in the first couple of phases, and forcing the Irish back and showing them that they're there, a bit like they did in the opening week game against France, showing them that they're there defensively, competing for everything and giving up nothing, and forcing things to be a little scrappy from Ireland. That's phase 1, and that's the biggest step that I think they have to make a competitive game. I would agree with that. Obviously set piece is huge as well. They'll be under pressure from a barnstorming front row
row union that Ireland are definitely bring to the party. They'll need to lock down their scrum, need to be accurate at line out. Sometimes though that the darts can go astray for them. But yeah, no, broadly speaking, the same thing applies. Try and make it look like one of those old school Ireland-Italy games where you shock them with your ferocity initially and your emotional attachment to every contact early doors. Create a few chances from errors and try and be clinical and capitalise on them. Those are the Italy kind of ins into the game. They're few and far between. I still maintain that they need to just go for everything, particularly when they have the energy, because the last quarter will not be theirs. As
yeah,
the
sure. It depends on your bar as well. Like if you're just setting the bar at a competitive 50 minutes, like a bit like Namibia taking the 9-0 lead against New Zealand.
I disagree with it. I think their bar is that like they need to get rid of they need to not be nilled, and nilled doesn't mean nil in a particular game. Nilled means that they can't get to the end of another Six Nations campaign and have zero. Yes. That's what you're talking about, motivating people about, like your people are doubting your side. That's where those questions come from. The fact that it's been many years in a row of just nil on the scoreboard. So go for it, try and score some tries.
Yeah, and I get your point, but also like I just think like the best chance of a competitive Italian team at the moment is that kind of Bennett style game, where it is somehow 0-0 at half time because you've just controlled, you've given up nothing on the defensive end, you've controlled the territory, you've been miserly at set piece, the game's been a little sloppy, you've forced some knock-ons, and so the clock rolls on. And that's the template that a lot of these players have for being competitive. But then they do need to bring stuff on the offense as well. I do agree with you there, and you were making the point last week that this, like, in terms of folding into their shape, like you had moments when Varney was trying to do something or when Garbisi was trying to do something, and there just weren't guys picking good lines off them.
A lot of the problems comes from that they have so little possession in these games that they're those great back rowers like Lucchesi who you want to be providing an option off a guy like Garbisi. He's already made 10 tackles. It's only 10 minutes in, but he's already a bit beaten up and he's a bit slow to get there. And Varney's, with a few bits of ball, he's been a bit frantic and trying to get something happening. They're just not in rhythm, not in sync at all. And it's tough, but I still maintain that going for it and hoping that it clicks is a way to go. And getting Monty Ioane on the ball as often as they can, it helps them. Like they scored 0 against England, but the time they got closest to getting a try was when they did flash it wide to get Monty Ioane on the ball, and then he chipped, gathered, and then suddenly it was on the other side. He is the danger for them, so try and get him, work him into space.
If they are to be competitive, like massive performances needed from Monty Ioane, from Lamaro, the back row as well, Halafihi, and I know they're down a Negri now as well, so maybe Brand Sane will come back in, picking off some line outs like he does so well. Like all of these guys need to have monster performances. Like I think at their very best, maybe they could be competitive. All of these guys come out just playing out of their socks and all the passes stick, and they are quick to get into their shape, and they do produce that emotionally charged performance off the back of all this talk about them leaving the competition. That's their in, and that's the maybe. That's the what would you call it? Just a little caveat that you'd add to your usual prediction to this one, I would say.
Yes, perhaps. But with all that being said, what do you have for predictions?
Yeah, no, I'd like to be confident in Ireland. I don't think they've given me a reason not to be confident so far. So I'm like, obviously, you all get just a bit nervous as you arrived at game week. No matter who you're playing, you want to get this game out of the way. You want to get it out of the way with as many points as you can. Bonus point for sure. But yeah, no, just being physical in the red zone and kicking to the corners. They should have 4 tries in them anyway. So I'd say, what if Italy conceded 5 tries in the opening 2 games? So I'll say 5 again, like 5 in each of them. I'd say 5 again. So somewhere in the region of 35-10 maybe.
Hope that we're a little bit better, because it was rainy in Paris and we're a little bit like it's been miserable here with storms and stuff. But hopefully we get decent weather on the Sunday for it, and we get a bit of a dry track to run on. And then I'll say maybe 6 or 7 tries. But the one I'm actually more important, I would like for them to not allow Italy to score a try. As much as I would like Italy to go for tries all the time, I would like for the defence to actually keep them to nil, because they haven't managed that in the last few years. It should be a little thing for them. They usually in any game they usually switch off in moments. Ireland, it's true. And annoyingly, it's very often when the subs come on, which is exactly the opposite of what your finisher effect wants to be. It's like, God, it's not normal. The subs come in, it's got a bit disjointed. Why? No, I think my honest prediction is that it'll be something along the lines of 40-something 10, and I think Italy will manage 10 with a try, but I'm hopeful that we manage to do 50-something 0. But I don't think that that's the more likely. I think it is more likely that Italy do get a breakaway score at one point, but that Ireland are dominant overall.
I know your analysis is fair. It just worries me. It worries me to write them off. I mean, they shouldn't be competitive with Ireland, but who knows?
No, I think Ireland will have too much in this one, and bigger tests await for this Irish team, I think.
You're probably right. But listen, that wraps up our Six Nations coverage. 3 huge games. Well, you say 2 huge games, and who knows on Sunday? But
an Ireland game.
A couple of massive games on Saturday, and to look forward to. And we're really looking forward to it. How do you think it all is going to go? Let us know in the comments down below. But for the time being, we're going to move on. And just another footnote on this game, as we're actually shooting, we've actually got the news that Big Ian Henderson, the Irish lock, has tested positive for COVID and is hence pulled out of the squad. So obviously best wishes to him. That's terrible news for him. And fingers crossed as well that it ends there in the squad, and that we aren't reading about multiple cases and a whole new team come Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully we just have that be the end of it and let it Big Ian Henderson get better, and hopefully we have a good game coming up anyway.
Absolutely. And no 28-0 to Italy.
No, none of that.
All right, moving on. Thank you for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please be sure to like and share with your friends. And if you'd like to hear more of what we have to say, please be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you get notified when we upload our videos. And please join the comment section as well. We like to get a fun conversation going here.